Well, Joe, this is really devastating as communities across Mississippi recover from the recent winter weather. One church, which was almost finished with its renovations, now has to start all over because of the damage.
The heavy snow really did its damage.
Yeah.
It happened at Wells of Life Church in Senatobia. The church sits at the corner of Gravel Springs and Obie-McClinton. Now, Pastor Greg Wright says, look at the building here. The extension to their current building is a $1.2 million project. The extra space was going to be used for hosting conferences and leadership meetings. He says even though the winter storm might have knocked down their building, he's not giving up on those renovations.
You see, my faith wasn't in the building. It was in God. It was in Jesus. And I don't believe a storm, a hurricane, ice, I don't believe nothing can stop the plan of God.
Pastor Greg Wright says after 2 years of construction, they were about $250,000 away from completion. He says they'll start back working on the building as soon as possible. Wright says the goal is to get this done and begin phase 2, a recreation park right behind the church.